Now we start this hour in Europe, where U.S. Special Presidential Envoy Steve Witkoff is in Moscow this weekend, according to U.S. Permanent Representative to NATO Matt Whitaker. In an interview with NBC News, Whitaker expressed hope that Witkoff's visit could lead to a breakthrough in ongoing discussions. Whitaker emphasized the U.S. goal of securing a deal between both sides and noted that Witkoff's presence in Russia might yield positive results. Witkoff's trip to Russia follows a visit to Israel and the Gaza Strip earlier this month as part of efforts to mediate in the region. The special envoy has made several trips to Moscow recently, where he has met with Russian President Vladimir Putin. We're now joined by Ross Feingold, who's a political analyst. He joins us live from Taipei in Taiwan to give us more detail on this. Ross, thank you very much, as always, for joining us. Ross, can we dive a little bit into Steve Witkoff, his experience in negotiating conflicts, how he's been doing since the Trump presidency in Donald Trump's large foreign policy aims, that being ending the Ukraine war and ending the war in the Middle East in Gaza. Can you tell us a bit more about who Steve Witkoff is, his past experience, and your analysis on how you think he's doing in negotiating these conflicts?
His past experiences as a real estate investor in the New York City area, that's what he's known for. And that's the connection that he has to President Trump. They've known each other for decades, both being real estate tycoons in New York City, in the New York City area. So frankly, he has no on-point experience with international diplomacy or negotiating ceasefires or peace in conflict zones. He's a businessman, and specifically, he's a real estate guy, just like President Trump. That being said, one of the most important tools that an American ambassador or special envoy, in this case, can bring to foreign countries is that they have a direct line to the president. And in this case, when countries interact with Witkoff, whether that's interlocutors like Qatar and Egypt, which work with the United States to bring about a ceasefire in Gaza, or directly with parties that are conflict to a war like Russia, the other side knows that when they're speaking to Witkoff, they are speaking to somebody who has a direct line into the United States president. And that's extremely useful in moving negotiations along. Now, to be fair to Witkoff, it seems like the parties that he's been dealing with during the 6 months that he's had this role, they're willing to work with him. We don't see or hear or read criticism from the other parties, the other countries, about Witkoff, or they don't say Witkoff lied to them or he went back on his word or anything like that. So it's clear that Witkoff has developed a rapport with the people he's dealing with, and that allows him to facilitate these various negotiations.
Ross, just a couple of months ago, Witkoff was criticised for an interview that he gave where he sounded like he was sympathising quite a lot with the Russian cause and it appeared to some critics that he had a particular fondness to Vladimir Putin. How do you analyse this relationship between the Russian president and the US envoy? Obviously, when we see them greet each other, they greet with a handshake and smiles. Sometimes we've seen a hug between the two. Given the escalating tensions now and visible frustration that Donald Trump has shown with the Russian president, do you think that relationship will change?
That's a very good question. One thing to keep in mind is that when Witkoff said such nice things about Putin after his first interactions with Putin, that was at a time when President Trump was also generally saying nice things about Putin as well. So of course Witkoff's going to be consistent with his boss, President Trump. But also just as a matter of negotiating strategy, Witkoff probably realizes that there's no benefit for him to go into the international media and say bad things about Putin, because he knows that that's just not going to bring about a ceasefire or a longer-term peace between Ukraine and Russia. So part of this is also negotiating strategy as well. And again, I think it's worth noting that it appears that the Russians, and specifically President Putin, they're willing to work with Witkoff. So Witkoff has established this rapport. It hasn't brought about a ceasefire arrangement yet. There's going to have to be some concessions from the Ukrainian side as well. Everybody knows that. There's no denying that. But it's not something that Zelensky is willing to agree to, at least not yet. But as far as the interactions between Witkoff and Putin, at least for now, it's positive, and that facilitates ongoing talks.
Yes, Ross, thank you very much. You are staying with us to discuss further developments from the Ukrainian